Perfection action is yoga.
Okay, perfection in action is yoga. Our master tells us, what is a perfect action? One that causes no harm to anyone and some benefit to someone, yourself included. You know, many times in our life, we think we need to do things in order to appear good, or be good, or stay away from things because we don't want to appear bad. So we are very confused in much of our life, what is good and what is bad. And really, in truth, only you know, only the person who's doing the action really knows whether the action is true, is good or bad. For me, it's very simple. If you want to cause intentional harm to anyone, that is obviously not a good action. But if you cause someone harm, and your intention is to give love selflessly, and that person takes it as wrong, then you have to let go what that person thinks of you and accept that you have done the perfect action. To that person, it is not perfect because they read it as harm, but you've given it as love. So perfect actions are very, very difficult to define. And this is why, again and again, see, perfection in action is yoga. So the first thing you have to understand what yoga is before you can define what is a perfect action. What is yoga? You all know this so well because I talk about this all the time, don't I? What is yoga? What is the meaning of yoga? Union. You unite what we call the lower self with your higher self. Man and God. Man and woman with divinity. But where is that divinity and where is that divine? Within all of us. And yoga is that action of learning to I would like to say reunite what we really are, because we're really spiritual beings coming to this earth to have an experience. So we're reuniting with our true self, our true self. And our true self is that we're all related. We're all one. We all come from the same source. So really, that's why you get all these wonderful masters speaking about you are my brothers and sisters. Because it's the absolute truth. But it's hard to see it when you live in this world, when somebody's really nasty to you and somebody's causing you pain. It's hard to understand that we're all really one. Because natural inclination is, they're causing me pain, I want to cause pain back. But of course, if you do that, then you go into a never-ending cycle of pain. Yoga is understanding the connection with the highest, so your actions on earth can be perfect. What is the law of karma? As you sow, you reap. Every action is an equal and opposite reaction. So a perfect action is one that doesn't bring ripples back to you and cause harm to you again. So now you know immediately, somebody insults you, you insult them back, which is the normal reaction. Most people do that until you learn to be your higher self. You insult them back. What's happened? You've created a wall. And what have you sown? Future seeds of discontent and unhappiness. Every time you see that person, there is dislike, there is pain, there is sorrow, there is anger. And all those things don't give you peace. So really, when you have to ask yourself the ultimate question is, what gives you peace? What gives you peace? So when you realize that all these actions and reactions, all the retaliation, all the jealousy, all the envy gives you nothing but disease, there comes a point in your life when you say, all I want is peace. So then you do your yoga to find peace. Why do you do your yoga? Because to understand a perfect action, it has to come from a purely selfless place. It's not based on, okay, I'm telling you off because I'm the teacher and I want you to know that I'm in charge. Do you see? I may be in charge, but if I'm telling you off to show you my position, what am I doing? One is based on ego and it's based on my selfishness. I want to show power. Got it? But let's say I see you do something, some action that is going to cause ripples to you in your life. Nobody will tell you because people will agree even if you do the wrong thing just for the sake of people pleasing or not getting into an argument. People I've noticed don't like to be truthful. Have you noticed? So I see that this action that you're doing is incorrect and it's going to cause you ripples. It's not that it's bad, anything is bad or good. It's just going to cause you back more pain. So I come from a place of love and I tell you, look, I think you should stop doing this because it's going to bring you unhappiness later. And you may not take what I say well, because the ego doesn't like to hear that too. But I know I have done a perfect action. How do I? So whether you react to me well or not doesn't bother me. Because my action is based on what? Love. Pure love. I don't mind if you get angry with me. It's okay. But as long as you learn from it. And because it's an action based on pure love, that person sooner or later will realize the truth. Because it's based on compassion. Now, when we take things very personally, that's when all the problems start. Because personal means selfish. I want to prove a point. I always say very highly spiritual people don't bother to debate. Don't bother to debate. When you feel you have to prove yourself all the time or debate things all the time, it's what are you trying to do there? You're trying to convince somebody to think like you. Isn't that what breaks down all relationships? So this you're trying to prove that what you're saying is right. If you know that everything is because it is and everything ultimately is divine, you won't want to debate. Because you know everybody will have their own time in finding their truth. So you will treat each person from where they are coming from and not where you are coming from. Let me explain this more clearly. For example, when my husband had cancer, when he was diagnosed with cancer, I had this thing about chemotherapy, right? He was diagnosed with stage 4, and I knew that no matter what they gave him, it wouldn't work at that point. Because once you're stage 4, I would rather do something different. Chemo just kills all your good cells. This is my personal opinion from all the cases I've seen. So obviously, my thing was to advise my husband. We had to do the first chemo because he was coughing so much that cortisone, steroids, nothing could remove the cough because the tumor was right on his lung. So we didn't have a choice. So the first chemo he did, it was much better. He got much better. So this was about 10 days later of my first chemo, and I told him, do you really want to bother with a second? Your quality of life, whatever life you have, will not be so good. And he said to me, darling, do you mind if I do it? I know you're against it, but do you mind if I do it? I need to take that risk. How could I say no? It was everything against my better judgment. But he needed to do it. If I had stopped him from the second chemo, and he would have died anyway. He would have always blamed me. Do you see? So sometimes it's not, a perfect action is not always what looks right or wrong to the world. It is what is best for the other person and what will give them the most peace. What would have given me the most peace is if he hadn't had the chemo, because he was already starting to eat again after the first chemo, but after the second chemo, that was it. He couldn't eat anymore. He could hardly move off the bed anymore. Right after the second chemo. So, but I had to allow him to learn that for himself. Anyway, as the doctor said, he had 6 weeks and that's all he had. The reason why I'm telling you this is to let you understand what a perfect action is. Many times I've seen when people want to do things for themselves, partners or friends, we stop them because we want them to do it our way. We stop them. We want them to do it our way, and our way may not be the perfect action for them. Because our way may bring them no peace. And if you really love someone, what will you be looking to giving them? All of you, what would you want them to have? Peace. You have to let them go and find their own peace. It's like children. I have seen, the story of, let me tell you this story, some of you know it, the moth and the doctor. There was once this doctor who was studying this cocoon, and the moth is in the cocoon before it becomes a moth, right? So he was studying how the moths would come out of the cocoon. So there was the cocoon, and every day it was growing bigger and bigger while the caterpillar was inside doing its metamorphosis, right? And suddenly he was observing it and it was shaking. Oh my God, this cocoon is really shaking. The moth must be wanting to come out. Second day, he saw it was shaking. Oh, the moth must be wanting to come out. Third day, he feels sorry for the moth. It's shaking in there. Why don't I make its life easier by cutting open the cocoon? It doesn't have to shake so much. The moth can just fly out. So he cut the cocoon. But guess what? When the moth came out, it didn't have the wings to fly, and the moth was crippled all its life. Sometimes we want to help people, but if we don't let them learn their own lessons, they end up crippled. Sometimes we want to help so much we cripple people. Have you seen that happen? I've seen this with a mother and daughter. She had one child, and she doted on that child and gave that child everything. And whenever the child was scared, when she had her problems with her friends, oh, darling, don't worry, everything will be fine. Mommy's here, I'll look after you, come hug me, got nightmares, everything, I'll handle it, didn't do well in school, I'll handle it. So suddenly that child was very bright, very intelligent, very loving, so loving. But guess what? So fearful of life that when she was 18 and did her A-levels and had to move on to university, she became crippled. She couldn't go. She couldn't face the world. Mom's not going to be there to protect her anymore. She literally developed severe manic depression, OCD, which took her a good 15 years to heal. And still today, she finds it almost impossible to make decisions, because every time it's too much. She was so used to Mom taking it all over for those first 18 years of her life. And suddenly, Mom says, grow up, find yourself, go to university. She couldn't do it. So perfection in action means really thinking, what is best? Nowadays, we give our children too much. We give them everything. We spoil them. But we don't give them the one thing they need. I mean, some of you do. Which is your time and your love. I see so many families today, they don't sit and have a proper meal with their kids. One's in a room doing the computer, the other one's watching TV. There's no communication. There's no love. There's no perfection in action. There's no holiness. In order to feel holy, you have to feel whole. Units have to feel whole. This togetherness, this feeling of being together, there's none of that today. So let's keep the child quiet. Okay, take £10 £10 and go out with your friends tonight so we can have a quiet night at home and do my computer work. Not perfection in action. What does it cause? A lot of ripples later on. So what happens? People grow up thinking, let me choose a partner that has enough money to give me all my needs. They get into a relationship. It doesn't work. They're always trying to buy each other off with money or habits or favors. Always manipulation. Haven't you seen what's happening today? I'll do this for you if you do this for me. Because what have they been taught? I'll give you £10 and you give me my peace. Again, this is why it's all action reaction. So if you can practice yoga and understand there are certain universal laws. There's certain universal laws. What are those, universal laws? Non-violence, truthfulness. These are compassion, generosity. And if we can train ourselves to build up those qualities and also train ourselves on a daily basis to be the best we can as a human being on a daily basis. It doesn't work if you do it once a week or once a month. On a daily basis, you train yourself. Then your subconscious, your superconscious, this will always do the highest action. Why? Because you get to recognize when you build the best in you, blessed are the pure, they shall see God. When you build up the best in you, you start to see the divine in you. And of course, if you see the divine in you, you don't have any choice left because you'll see it in everyone. Automatic reaction. You don't even have to try to love people. When you build up the divine in you, that is the grace that comes and the gift that comes automatically. You just develop compassion. And then what happens is your actions become more perfect in the sense that you're always looking for the highest good for that person. So many people will say, what about me? And isn't it also good for me? At that point, that question doesn't even exist. You won't even ask, what about me? Because you are me. What about me is the early stages of spiritual practice. So many people go into yoga, and this is a big mistake they make. Say, well, I want to be a better person, I want to be spiritual, so I need my meditation time. Do you see how aggressive that is? Already to somebody you're living with? I need my time. Everything you're saying is correct, but there's an aggression with it. It should be, I want to better myself. How can I fit into a family's routine? When you have little children, it's hard. You're not going to tell everybody, leave the room because I need the room for meditation. Oh, this is meditation mom and dad got themselves into. They become more rude than they were before. And before they tolerated our music. And suddenly they become better than, It's true, I see many yogas teach this, and they forget the compassion. So, I remember when I first started meditation, of course, that was very young, then I was only about 33, and my kids were little. And so I worked a full-time job with my husband. So I thought, oof, I'm going to have to change my entire life. So initially, I started using my bath time for my meditation. I just sit on the floor and meditate, because that is mine. Nobody's going to come. Nobody's going to touch that. But after a week, I realized the floor was too cold. So then I actually went to my husband and said, I really need to purify my mind, because my master said, the only way I'm going to find peace is to purify my mind. And the only way I'm going to purify my mind is to spend time with it, to understand it and to know it. So do you mind if I come a little later to work, like 15, 20 minutes later? So, because I used to walk with him to work every morning, open the shop with him. when you say it nicely, people don't mind, so he didn't mind. And so that's when I first started doing my meditation, give him his breakfast, have breakfast with him, because I wasn't going to change that. And then when he went to work and my kids went off to school, I'd sit down and meditate. And then I remember when later on when my children went to boarding school, it was very quiet, so there was no problem. But then when they came back for holidays, bang, the radio. I only got my son for 6 weeks. If I tell him to, switch off his music, it's really not very kind, is it? Because he can't do that in uni. I mean, he can't do that in boarding school. So the only place he can do it is in the home. And if I start screaming at him, don't put on your music because I have to meditate, he's definitely going to be put off meditation, isn't he? He's never ever going to want to do it in his life. So I started to develop a program for me. Every time the rave went on, I did my mantras. Oh, Namah Shivaya. And it just worked. So I remember I did this like for 10, 15 days. He was there for 6 weeks. And then one day the music goes off. And then when I finished with my meditation, so how come you didn't have the music on today? Mom, I realized you were meditating, and I thought it might be too noisy for you. Because it wasn't selfish, you see? Many times we go to spiritual practices, we become very egotistical. We think we're better than everybody else. Everybody should sacrifice for us. Wow, what's happened? We really lost the meaning of spirituality. The whole idea of spirituality is to compassion, understanding, selflessness. Yes, I want to be a better person, but I can't scrap everybody's life and say yours doesn't count anymore because I want to be better. So you have to, this is where Master Shivananda says, right? Adapt, adjust, accommodate. So, and that's the fun. And then it's a balance. Yes, it's hard work because you're always finding balance. Suddenly my husband, 2-3 years later, changes. I'm not going to go to work so early anymore. The staff opened the shop. Revision. And then I get up at 5 o'clock and I had a portable stool, one of those footstools. And it was portable, so I had my little altar and I used to move it to the sitting room. So move it to the sitting room, don't disturb anybody, do my meditation, and then put back my portable, and then I'm back in my bed. And this happened for years. I think this happened for years, to learn, adapt, adjust, and accommodate. And when you follow the golden rules, whether you like it or not, people will adapt, adjust, and accommodate to you. And that's exactly what happened. The gods gave me a new home where I had a prayer room just to myself. And I could go in any time I wanted without disturbing anyone. And a bigger home to do it in. And this is the way it works. I think we're always tested in spirituality. And tested to be selfless. Tested to learn these. It's very easy to say adapt, adjust, and accommodate, isn't it? It's very difficult to actually live it. Because sometimes I really want to meditate at this time. Nalanie, adapt, adjust, accommodate. Okay, relax with it. And you have to keep talking to yourself. And then the action becomes perfect because it causes no harm to anyone, some benefit to someone, yourself included. And it's a perfect action. And that's how you look upon your actions. If you can look at it, not I, this is I, and sometimes we use God as a tool for ourselves, or spirituality as a tool for being selfish. And I've seen many teachers do this, and it makes me really very, very, very sad. Very, very sad, because it's the whole antithesis of the teaching. It's selfless. If you are spiritual, it means that you are starting to see everybody as yourself. Love thy neighbor as thyself. You and I are one. We're all one. We all come from the same Big Bang, from the big black spot where they say there's nothing, but everything's in it. Oh, by the way, there's a great documentary out called The Black Hole, WHOLE. Google it. It's about a scientist that actually talks about God as atoms. It's really fascinating. And there are even mathematical equations to prove it.
Who's it by? I Googled because I've Googled it.
I've Googled it and I cannot find it.
Then I have to give you the name of the scientist.
There's a very old movie, something which keeps on coming out. And
Okay,
there's houses of
so
people
can you remind me to ask Ole for the name of I forget his name now, of the scientist. Maybe by Googling him, you will find his documentary. Because it's somebody gave it to me with this great who's Ole, who researches everything for me. So I always tell him to keep his eyes up, because I never have time for
You mentioned it 2 months ago.
Yes.
And I looked for it.
I may have a copy of the CD at home. If I do, I'll bring it over and you just copy it, okay? Because it's so brilliant. It's just so brilliant. It shows that science is proving an existence that is called God. It's so exciting.
Hallelujah.
Yeah, hallelujah. Because it's the same. It's all one. We all come from the same place. And the reason why wars are fought today is because it's all about separation. It's all about I, me, and mine. My country, my power. Look at Syria. Destruction. Egypt. Destruction. Killing their own people. For what power? For power, and our world has become so very sick. That's why we must give the medicine. The medicine for sickness is to give the medicine of peace and love. And we can only do it where we are. But those vibrations will reach out. And the more of us that apply this medicine, and the more perfect actions we do in our life, the more the earth will be imbibed with this. And this is why it's so important for each one of us, to take the responsibility to sow good seeds. We have to take the responsibility. And once you sow your own good seeds, the second responsibility is to your community. People tell me, I'm good, I look after my family. Who doesn't? What are you doing that everybody else isn't doing? You reach out. Once you fix yourself, you reach out. Like I said, everybody is your family. And you do the practice while you're young, when you're bringing up your children. So the children learn by your example. They learn to adjust, adapt, and accommodate. They learn to communicate. They learn to talk. They learn to love. And they learn to heal. You do it by your own action. That's how children learn. Recently I was in Hong Kong, and my aunt was quite sick, and my granddaughter, she's only 3, Indira, she's gorgeous, does all the mantras inside out. Anyway, she's there, and I'm trying to teach them that you can heal. We can all heal. You know that. We can all heal. And so I said, will you go to Auntie Sandy and just, let's touch your feet and do the Om Triambagam, which is a mantra for healing. So it was her and another of her cousins called Ananda and myself. And you should have seen their faces when they were doing Om Triambagam. You could see that they were wanting my aunt to heal. It's just such a wonderful thing to watch. But you got to teach children that they can do that and not be embarrassed to show love. Granny, is she going to get better? Yeah, sure. As you think. Many times when my grandchildren are ill, I tell them, touch your heart. Something is hurting you, touch your heart and forgive it. Just go to your heart and say, it's okay. We have to learn to grow up. Life isn't easy. It's okay, no big deal. I tell them to do that. So they learn to do that. Because life is not easy, and we'll be fooling our children if we don't guide them. But tell them, yes, it's not easy, but guess what? Your spiritual power is so strong that you can climb every obstacle. And that's what we can do. We can change the world. Who knows where the next saint is going to come from? We don't know. But all we know is that the generation before us was turning away from the spirit. It was being taken out of everything. All indoctrination, dogma, religion. But where is the spirit? And this next generation now is fighting back with love. Fighting back with love. You can only put a fire out with water. And the only way you can love unconditionally is to continuously, as much as you can, we are human, so we have to excuse ourselves when we make a mistake, but continuously plant perfect actions that are selfless. Sri Patanjali says there are two types of actions. Selfish, painful, or painless. Painful or painless. Our master, Sri Swami Satchidananda, further defined them as, if you think of them as selfish and selfless, you will notice that selfish actions will eventually cause pain. And selfless actions do not. They may appear to cause pain in the beginning, but because they're based on selflessness, they will cause good in the end. These are concepts that you have to practice yourself to understand fully. Because I'm just speaking words, but when you practice them, when you do something so loving, like a grandchild trying to heal an adult, you can see how they feel selfless, how they feel that they want to serve. Rotary, what is Rotary's motto? Service above self. Did you know that? Any Rotarians? None. No Rotaracs, no Rotarians. They do wonderful work all over the world. Service above self. Sounds like yoga, don't you think?
Yes.
And that gives you the joy, and that brings the peace, and that brings the perfection in action. But service above self is a double-edged sword again. Because when you serve, sometimes, most of the time, people want something back in return. Either monetary, or something, a thank you, or appreciation, or praise. You want something in return. And then, again, you will be disappointed. So perfect action is one that you do with joy, and expect nothing in return. Nothing. And then the action is complete. There's nothing to throw back at you. Because if the person doesn't like what you are doing, it's no problem. You are doing it for the sake of your service to humanity. Because it makes you feel good. Don't you feel good when you do something good for someone? Don't you feel good when you make somebody smile? Think about when you feel the best. You see children giggling in a corner, don't you just want to cuddle them and pinch their cheeks? It makes you so happy. Some people don't like children, I just adore them. Then talk about your pets when they're happy. You know, when they see you and they bump with joy, you know. Doesn't that make you happy? What makes us tick? What makes us happy? Haven't you seen there's a common denominator? Unconditional love. Don't you feel happy when you do something wrong instead of saying, well, I didn't really do it, it was really your fault. Say, you know, I made a mistake, I'm really sorry. And the person forgives you? Sure, it doesn't matter. No problem. Doesn't that feel good? Doesn't it feel awful when you make a mistake and say, why did you do it? Don't you know you ruined my day and da-da-da, and I told you not to do it and you did it and those actions happen because it's based on, I want to know what people are thinking about me, or my needs are more important than your needs. And don't you think sometimes spiritual people can be so cruel to their partners by telling them they're better than them because they know better, because I'm the one that's meditating and I'm the one that's going to classes and you don't know anything, so you better change your habits. How much judgment. You know, when my husband was alive, people used to say, oh, you know, your husband doesn't travel with you, he doesn't support what you do. And I said, you're absolutely wrong. He's actually the better yogi. He allows me to travel, to do this work. And he's the one making the sacrifices. I love this work. He's sitting home alone. And I normally make his dinner and lunch and everything for him. And he has to go and have those horrible tin pies, you know? What did Michelle call them once? Dog food. I'm a vegetarian. He wasn't. So, horrible food, you know, white baguette bread every day, which wasn't good for him, but that's what he knew how to cook. And he had to do that while I was out doing my thing. Who was making the biggest sacrifice? I was with a group of people that I just loved to bits, and he was all alone at home. So who really was the yogi? You know, you really have to think. You know, sometimes we judge people by our own standards, and real spirituality is not that. And sometimes we allow people to get away with murder because we'd rather not have an argument or a fight for the wrong reasons. Oh, because you know the Ramakrishna story, right? I love to tell them a lot about rowing the boat. Yeah, you know the story. You've got good kids. You really do. So I've told the story so many times, but let me tell the story that I haven't told for a long time that I love. The Chapati story, because many of you may not have heard it. Long time. You remember it. Once there was a woman who lived in a village, and in that village lived a hunchback. And he was a bit obnoxious and rude, and everybody in the village just didn't like him, because he'd go around singing, the good you do comes back to you, the evil you do stays with you, and he'd say, give me food, give me food, give me food, look after me. So nobody liked him. Now this lady lived a little way out of the village, and one day this hunchback came to her outside her house and go, give me chapati. Chapati is Indian bread. Give me bread, give me bread, give me chapati. So this woman felt so sorry for him. Poor guy, nobody wants to feed him. He's so obnoxious. So she makes a chapati and she gives it to him. And he starts singing the song, the good you do comes back to you, the evil you do stays with you. And this goes on for like 6 months, and about 6 months' time, she can't stand the sight of the hunchback. And where it came from compassion suddenly changed to hatred and total like, oh, I can't have you around my house. So she's plotting in her mind, how can I get rid of him? I tell him to go, he doesn't go, he keeps singing this song. You know, I fed him for 6 months and now he wants me to feed him all the time. So she was so angry, she thought, you know what? Nobody likes him. Why don't I just poison his chapati? So, and you know, I'll be doing the town a favor, everyone a favor, and him a favor. So, you know, he won't get so much hatred directed towards him. So she starts to make her chapati, she puts the poison in, and he comes to the window with the same song, and she's just about to give him the chapati. Her hand shakes, she can't do it. So she takes it, she throws it away, and makes a fresh new one without poison and gives it to him. She said, you know what? Tomorrow I will poison him, because this is ridiculous. So he goes and sings his song. That night she was nicely staying in her house, you know. Suddenly there's a knock on the door. She opens this door and there is this emaciated, thin-looking man and drops right on the floor turns him over, and she goes, my son, you're home. For 2 years I've been praying. You went to war and I didn't know what happened to you. I've been praying to God for 2 months. For 2 years. Where is my son? And you're home. And he answered, he said, Mom, I nearly didn't make it. I was just a few miles down the road. I was exhausted from lack of food. And because of the way I look, people would kick me. They thought I was a thief or a murderer. And nobody would give me anything to eat. I thought I would die on the road when suddenly a hunchback came singing the song, the good you do comes back to you, the evil you do stays with you. And he gave me a chapati, Mom. And when I ate that chapati, I had enough strength to walk. If she had poisoned that chapati, she would have poisoned my son. But the good she had done for the 6 months, giving the hunchback the chapati, made him, the hunchback, generous to share it with somebody he saw less fortunate than himself. And that you never know. You never know in life where it comes from. So if somebody irritates you and you're doing good, just accept that that is your dharma. That is what we call the swadharma, your spiritual duty to keep doing the good, even though, sometimes when you look after old people, grumble, 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 grumble. Yeah, they're sick and hustle, grumble, grumble, grumble. And you're doing and doing. People carers get frustrated and they go, I know it's frustrating. Make sure you get some time out for yourself, you get some rest. And just, bear with it. Because in the end, there's always such a reward. And everyone who's born with this kind of problem and seen it right through, tell me after the experience, I'm so glad I looked after my mother. So glad I looked after my father. Because now there's no guilt. There's total closure. I'm so glad I did it. Even though it was hard, even though I was angry, I did it. And there's that peace that comes. See, not all good deeds bring you joy. Sometimes they bring you a lot of frustration. But it's selfless. And that selfless action, in the end, will give you closure. Which is worth a lifetime free of guilt, right? And the people that don't do it, that don't fulfill, come with a lot of guilt. They can't seem to heal. After a death, they can't seem to heal. I wish I had done this. I wish I hadn't argued. I wish I hadn't done, I wish. So they live with this guilt for a long time. And that guilt saps all your energy. In the Bhagavad Gita, it says very clearly, if you want to be happy and you want to know the divine, have no fear, guilt, anger, or worry. And again, this is where the yoga practice of yoga comes in. Fear, we all have fear. All of us. The biggest fear is the fear of death. And that's one thing we all know we have to go through. And this is why the mantra, lead us from real to real. Lead us from darkness to the light. Lead us from the fear of death to the knowledge of immortality. And as I was told today, glory be to the Father, and to the Son, and to the Holy Spirit, as it was in the beginning, is now, and forever shall be.
World without end.
World without end. So you're never going to die. And that's the higher teaching again. Remember, my body will die, but I will never die. My body will die, but I will never die. You're never going to die. By constantly repeating that, it will go into your system. So if you are not the body, and the body is on loan to you, and the body will die, what doesn't die is what you have to look after more, right? The one that's eternal.
Would make sense, yeah.
Yeah, would make sense.
Yeah.
So then you start to look after your soul. And in all the scriptures, without doubt, they all talk about simply doing good and being good. So the spiritual ego is the worst ego. And again, you see many people, and this is where we get this, it becomes, religion becomes like politics. And this is why so many people today are running away from religion. But it's not the religion that's done anything wrong. It's the ego and the knowledge that has taken over the person in charge. The feeling of power, you know, the saying. Power corrupts, and supreme power corrupts supremely. But if you are constantly working on yourself, you won't have that battle. They'll come to all of us. Anybody on the spiritual path, as you elevate with knowledge, as you develop clairvoyance and clairaudience, because this is the byproduct of the practice of goodness. It's the byproduct. You will get gifts when you practice. And let me again give you another story to explain this. Once there was a monk, and he was sitting under a tree, meditating for years. And suddenly a bird came and did a poo on him, right? And he got so angry. Oh, you silly bird, I was in my meditation, may you burn. And the bird burnt. Oh my God. I've been meditating for so many years, my words have become so powerful. I am definitely God. Do you see? He got into the spiritual ego. So after that, every day he used to go to get alms. They go to homes and get fed. So he went to this woman's house, which he goes to every day. And normally he sits there and waits till she gives him some food. But that day, he goes, "Woman, I'm here. Don't you know who I am? When are you going to feed me?" And then she opens the window. She said, "Why are you speaking so rudely?" She said, "Do you think you can treat me like that bird that you burnt? You can't treat me like that bird. I have a sick husband, and my first duty is with my husband. And after I feed him, I will definitely come and feed you." And he was so surprised. How did she know about it? That happened in the next village. How did she know about that? Was she there? Did she see me there? How did she get home? And he was thinking all these thoughts. And when she had finished feeding her husband, she came out and she goes, "Here's your food." And he goes, "How did you know I did that to the bird?" And she looked at him and she said, "I don't know how I know." So, "But surely you must have done something to know that I did that to the bird." She said, all I know is that I try to do my job to the best I can. And I try to accept life the way it's come to me. And I have a sick husband, and my first job is to look after him. That's all I know. And all these visions come to me, and I just get them. Blessed are the pure, they shall see God. What is her mind thinking? Nothing but service, right? So there's not poor me, why me, do my job, that's it, attend to it. This has come to me, I'll do it. Dedication, focus, acceptance. And then the mind is so clear that it can receive all the visions from the universe. Because everything is available to all of us, it's free. We just have to have a clear mind. So anyway, so he was very impressed that a housewife could develop the siddhi, the power of seeing this vision. So he said, So she said, but really, I don't know much. If you really want to learn, there is a man in the village, in the next village, who is a butcher. And he is really will be your professor. And then this monk is thinking, butcher? I'm a vegetarian. It's wrong to eat meat. How can a butcher teach me anything? And he's fascinated. A butcher? Oh my God, killing all the meat. So, but he's fascinating, and so he goes to the next village, and he goes to the butcher's shop, and he sees this guy, this man there. He said, and he goes, are you so-and-so? And he goes, yes, I am so-and-so. He said, can I speak to you? He said, Swamiji, if you don't mind, I have to finish my work. I have to look after my family. My parents are sick, and I have to do my work. So if you sit down when I finish my work, I will take you to my home, and I will answer any question you want. And while he was working, he was watching him. He was watching the butcher work very fairly, very generously, very kindly, And so anyway, the butcher finishes and takes him home. Swamiji, let me give you a drink. I'll give you a meal. I know you are vegetarian. I am too. But let me feed my parents first, give them a bath, and then I'll answer your questions. So, gives his parents bath, goes to the Swamiji, makes him a nice vegetarian meal. And the Swamiji says, the monk, I have to ask you, you are such a good man. What are you doing selling meat? And the woman in the last village told me that you are the one who can teach me spiritual knowledge. What can you teach me? Selling meat and killing animals to feed other people. And he goes, oh, that's my dharma. The shop belonged to my family. It was handed down to me. I have to look after them. I need money to feed them. This is all the trade I know and brought up with. So when I sell my meat, I bless everybody who buys it, everybody who eats it, that they may be well and they may prosper. And all I know is it gives me the money to feed my family. For me, I am personally a vegetarian. And then he goes on to give him the whole of the teachings of the scriptures. So when the mind is clear, you can receive many messages. That's why many people tell me they get visions. Today I was told by a lovely young lady having a vision of our master. Because the mind, when it's focused on selflessness, on, this girl's desire was, I want to know the truth, I want to be spiritual, I want to live a good life. So you see, the mind is so clear. And immediately visions come. She saw a vision to push her along the path, to push her along the spiritual path. So it's a hard path, no doubt, because the world will tell you you're a fool for wanting to be good and being good, and that you should cheat people to make money. But I have seen that when you do that, the law of karma takes over. And I'll finish off with a third story. Today I feel like stories. All stories, you've heard all of them. They're all golden oldies, right? It's about this, there was this milkman. And every day he delivered milk via going through a boat, a river, to the next village and delivered the milk. And his milk was so lovely that, every day the next village wanted more and more and more. As he saw the money coming in, his eyes went dollar signs. Easy thing to corrupt people with. Although it's such a lovely energy. I think money is a lovely energy. If you don't get corrupted by it, it's wonderful. Everybody should be rich. Everybody should share the money. But anyway, he got a bit greedy. So he decided, you know what, I'm going to dilute the milk. If I dilute the milk, now all the villagers love me and they trust me, they won't even notice, and I can double my income by diluting the milk. So of course they all trusted him, so when he brought the milk, nobody complained. They drank the diluted milk and they paid him. So one day, he was going back home after getting paid, and you know how in India in those days, on many old cities, they used to have a handkerchief, put the money in, tie a knot, and then tie it to their belt. Have you seen that? Well, that's how they do it in India. So anyway, he tied one half of the money on one knot and the other half on the belt on the other knot, with another knot. And it started to rain, and it started, to become quite stormy. So the boatman said, come quick, 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 let's go before the storm really gets bad. So they go across the river, and suddenly a huge wave comes, and the wave takes with it this handkerchief that slips into the water. And the man's going, oh my God, that's half my money, that's half my money, it's gone. And the boatman laughs, because he knows what's going on, right? And he goes, milk, money, come to milk. Water money goes to water. Can't escape karma. And this is why perfection in action is yoga. And finally, on a daily basis, how do you practice it? How do you practically? Is try again and again to focus on the moment. Try not to live so much in the past, because past experiences contaminate our thinking today. But remember, the past is the past, and it's over. Every day we should grow with our experiences. Try to detach from the pains of the past. Now, the only way you can detach from the pains of the past practically is to forgive it. Because if you sit and meditate and have some quiet time with yourself, you will notice that your negative thoughts far outweigh your positive ones in your mind, unless you practice for many years. To work on that, you will notice the worries will come in first before the joys. And then with practice, that all changes. Okay, so practical note. On a practical note, how do you practice this on a daily basis? Is forgive the past when you sit down to work on your mind and yourself. Try to forgive all those that have hurt you. Let that go first. And then what you do is say, this is my present. You know the saying, don't cry over spilled milk. It's gone. It's over. You can't change it. How am I going to enjoy my today or do the best with today? And the meditation initially helps you to keep the mind one-pointed. It'll go everywhere. That's the state of the mind. And you will start to learn to watch the mind. As it's going everywhere, you bring it back maybe with a mantra. Let's say the mantra is Om Namah Shivaya, for example. The mind goes, oh, I really don't like this one. Sorry, you're getting carried away again. Om Namah Shivaya, Om Namah Shivaya. And it goes again back to another story. Om Namah Shivaya. So you're training on a daily basis for the mind to stay focused. Got to do that. It's a hard journey. It feels like you're struggling initially. It feels like you're struggling. Keep with it. Keep with it. Don't think I have to make the mind blank. That's more advanced. And if you think you can make your mind blank, even Ramakrishna's master told me, if you think you want to make your mind blank, might as well take a stick and hit you on the head. The idea is not keeping the mind. It's almost impossible. That's the mind's job to think. What we're trying to teach the mind is focus. Focus. What to focus on? The highest. Remember we talked about it in the beginning? The highest. That's why we use mantra to help us. Now, if you don't like mantras, choose anything. And this too shall pass. And this too shall pass. Om peace. Om shanti. Om peace. Om shanti. Hari Om. Hari Om. Hari Om. I am peaceful. I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, immortal self I am. I'm not this body, I'm not this mind, immortal self I am. You choose, you choose, you choose. You choose something that makes you focus. Om Namah Shivaya makes me focus, so I use that. But choose something that makes you focus. Lord Jesus, fine. Mother Mary, fine. Buddha, fine. Om Mani Padme Hum, fine. Whatever makes you tick, that brings you to a higher place, bring it back, bring it back. And this is the training you give your mind on a daily basis. Start with 2 minutes. Don't torture yourself and say I have to do 15 minutes. And then by the end of 15 minutes, you're so put off the practice that you don't want to meditate tomorrow. Make yourself love your practice. Think it's training me. It's making me a better human being. It's making my life richer. I am training myself to live in the now. That's what I'm doing. I'm training my mind to have some power over my mind. Not that the mind decides everything for me every day. So the mind gets angry and I react. No, I am learning to take back my mind. I am in charge, not the mind. That's how you practice. Just learn to focus. Start with 2 minutes every day, every day. I think in the beginning it's really, really good. Like I always say to all of you, Swadhyaya, study spiritual books. What you do is, what I used to do is carry lots of little booklets in my handbag with little sayings and keep bringing them up all during the day to focus on the higher self, to focus. And then my bedside, I use Master Shivananda's prayer, Mother Teresa's prayer, all of them stuck on my bedside for years, so that I'd wake up in the morning and look at them to remind me. And my job is to read all of them before I got out of bed to meditate. So you're already fixing the mind on your highest, right? All these prayers help you to get to your highest. Like for example, St. Francis's prayer, which we love. Make me a channel of your peace. Where there is darkness, let me bring light. How beautiful is that prayer? It reminds you. Give people hope, give people love. So that's how you start. And you just do this every day, and you'll love the practice so much, because you will notice by itself, as you practice, by itself, anger will start to leave you. Fear will start to leave you. Envy will start to leave you. It takes time, but only you can do the practice. And that's the only way. Focus on the now. When you're able, after years of practice, and it's years, and do you know what? It's the best thing you can do for your soul and your life, because it changes it from a hell into heaven. That's the gift you give yourself. You change your world into a heaven on earth. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come. Thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And that's the practice. And then when you do that, you start to be able to live in the now. When you live in the now, your mind clear, you will be guided as to the perfect action. What is the perfect action? You will be guided. Sometimes perfect action is very confusing. You don't know what to do. There will be days when you will feel like that. And those days, be patient, ask for patience, sit with a problem for a few days, don't make any rash decisions, and just ask for an answer and wait. Just wait. Be patient. You will always receive an answer.